couple of announcements, and then I'm gonna shoot it over here to Cyndi, and she's gonna lead off with what we have planned for tonight. Okay? Let's pray together. Father in heaven, I thank you so much for this time that we can be here, and I thank you for the many examples of effective teaching, not the least of which and the most important of which is you, who walked this earth and was the master teacher. I just thank you for your example and for the importance of your word, which teaches us. And just pray that you would continue to open up our minds and allow us to explore these truths in your word so that we can be more effective as communicators of the good news of Jesus Christ and what he has done. Thank you once again for each person who has given up their time these last 3 weeks. And now as we wrap up here tonight, I just pray that we would be a blessing to one another and that you would just give us a good time of conversation and learning here tonight. Thank you once again, and we commit this time to you, for it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. So if you take a look up here, you can see it. Cyndi, if you wouldn't mind, actually it's probably okay. Just click on movie Boulder of Dreams with Guy Dowd.
That's pretty good.
We sent this to you in the beginning, and I know that many of you have handed this in. We have looked to see, and I apologize if you handed it in like a couple weeks ago. We are going to watch all of them. We are going to watch all of the videos. So no worries where that's concerned. This is what we intend to do this week. We wanted to wait for all of them to come in. And then also, like Danny just reminded me, 173 questions Jesus asked. I referenced that earlier in our class, and I'll be posting that material under resources. I keep wanting to go to this as if it's an interactive whiteboard, but it's not. It's very much non-interactive. But the, what was I talking about? I'm going to post it in here. There's a resources section. So it'll be just a resource material is what I call it in Google Classroom for my other coursework I do. But anyway, I'll post it there, and it will also appear in the stream. This is our last session. This is our fourth and final session, and Cyndi is going to talk to you about teaching methods and strategies, and we're going to wrap up our learning about methods and strategies here tonight.
All right, so last time we talked about 3 of the 5 that we're going to talk about, and the other 2 we'll do tonight. But first I wanted us to kind of refresh our memories together about the ones we did last time before Easter. So, or no, it was last week. We talked about direct instruction, we talked about guided instruction, and we talked about inquiry-based learning. So let's start with direct instruction. Who can just fire off, anybody, 1 or 2 things that you remember about it that's in your mind? You don't have to describe the whole thing, just give me something that you remember about direct instruction.
Well, lectures.
Okay, great. A lot of times it's lecture format.
Teacher-led.
Yeah, teacher-led, good. Most beneficial when we're just trying to do what?
Get through the info.
Get through the information, very good. Okay, excellent. And then guided instruction. Give me some things we remember about that.
Concept attainment.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, good.
I think of Andrew Poole on IEW.
Oh, yeah, also.
How so?
Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Right?
You, as the instructor, will do an example first. Then another step would be have the students or class do it with you, and then they would then do it independently. It's like a 3-step process.
Great. And that's what it's all about, right? Guiding them. And what are we doing as teachers all the while? From the beginning to the end, we're doing what with our control over things? Are we holding on to it, getting tighter, or are we releasing it little by little, right? Yeah, turning it over into their hands. Is it ever all theirs? Is learning ever just all theirs in the classroom?
It's a collaborative.
All right, yeah. We always can have something to say, right? We always want to be looking out for bad conclusions, for anything like that. We want to bring them back. It's still our responsibility. Okay, great. And then inquiry-based learning. What's that all about?
Inquiry sounds like questions.
Very good. Very curiosity-based, right? We give them questions and we give them the tools to find the answers. They dig in, right? And they form their conclusions, which is also really great. Okay, wonderful. Well, we're going to do a little activity here today. We're actually going to get up out of our seats in a minute, if you can. But here's what we're going to do. We have our 3 methods that we talked about last week. I'm going to give you a scenario of something you're going to teach in church, which you're not really. It's just for here. Don't panic. And I want you to choose the method that you think you would like to use for teaching that lesson. And I'll tell you up front, there's no wrong answer. It's totally fine. Just be able to defend why you would choose it. And it doesn't have to be a deep answer necessarily, just why would you choose this specific strategy in this situation, okay? So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to read you the scenario. Think for a second, how would I want to teach this using only these 3 options? And then just go stand in the corner that has your paper. And hopefully there'll be some other people there. And when you get there, just talk to each other. That's all you have to do. Tell each other why you're there, why you chose that specific method. Okay, so here's the first one. Of the methods we discussed so far in class, I am most likely to implement this one in my current ministry. All right, so your current ministry, pick one if you have more than one. And which of these 3 are you most likely to implement? There's no right or wrong. When you're sure, go stand in your corner.
You don't have to face the corner, you
Yeah.
can face out.
Like right now?
Yep, right now. And tell everyone else why you're there.
Did you read the scenario already?
I did. So this is, I am most likely to implement this one in my current ministry. So which one of
The
these?
class we're in?
Yeah, in your,
No,
whatever you
this
serve in
strategy.
church.
Oh.
So maybe it's Awana, maybe it's Sunday school, whatever you do in church, which one would you most likely?
So look at the strategies around the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. What method do you think you would use? And then tell everybody else there why. Go ahead and talk.
So I'm most comfortable in that. And so
I'm not the only one.
whenever I
Sorry,
No, go ahead.
teach,
You can put it down.
I always
You can see it.
use
I can
myself as the teacher.
Oh,
The
I'm
teacher
sorry
of
if
the
I
audience.
sticker in that.
No, I
Not that I
should
want
be
to
able to take it.
exclude them,
So
or
you
that I
stick
exclusively want to have control over
When I can't hit the
the
baseball.
information
Yeah.
transfer. But I do want to have control over guiding the conversation. I think, so direct instruction is something that I think is very easy for me to fall into.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
And also,
Oh, yeah. Well, what, I'm telling you.
Right.
this way, like you said, you can sort of see what's going on.
Okay, so VBS, so
Yeah.
that's gonna be,
And
so
you
how would
know,
you
like you see the look on their
approach
faces.
whatever,
You know, how they accept it.
Oh, so
Right,
that's not
I
really
think I'm
ministry.
comfortable
No,
because
I mean, it's
I
ministry,
do
it's not like
usually,
Right, no,
I'm in control. I can take the feedback from my audience and guide the conversation this way or another way, whatever way I want it to go. I like that best, I think. And so,
No, listen over here. I think we're kind of the product of our
yeah,
own experiences.
for sure.
You were in law enforcement for years, right? So direct instruction kind of makes sense for you, right? Given the kind of work that you did for so many years.
Yeah. Plus, you know, like I said, I like that, you know, so this way you can get out the
Yeah,
information.
no, that makes sense.
Like if I put myself in there, I learn better, you know, because like, for instance, let's say somebody goes something Revelation.
No.
And they can say, well, we're gonna have a big study, you have people in there. So it goes on for a week, you know, you lay down certain things and everybody does the work. You back next week, you're repeating the same thing that you repeated the week before.
Sure.
Then you go back the third week, you're repeating the second and first, and you're going back.
What I
Because a lot of
do,
people ain't gonna do it.
well, right now I'm not.
When I do this, I can learn the material better. Then at the end, if it's a question and answer thing, you know, Q&A, then I can do that. So this way I know I'm getting information, I'm interested in information. It's not, you know, really for lack of better words, like sort of clouded or whatever, I'm getting it straight, I can process it good, I can take good notes, I can do everything like that. You know, this way, because a lot of times if you do all that, you might ask a intelligent question, you might ask, well, you get something that comes like that, you might, and that.
Actually, that, yeah, so it's also when.
You know, the first thing you're like,
All right, these discussions are really great.
you're gonna say something next, you know, what do you know, something about a toilet or singing something, you know, when I was listening to video.
We're gonna move on to our next scenario, so listen carefully.
Okay.
Maybe you're gonna stay where you are, all right? Maybe you're gonna choose to stay where you are, but maybe you're gonna choose to switch. But here's your next scenario. Imagine that you are responsible this Sunday to come and teach to 5th graders the 10 Commandments. And the objective is for them to actually be able to tell you all of the 10 Commandments at the end of your lesson. So look around the room, consider your choices, and move if you would like, and then talk again to the people who are there to tell them your reasons.
5th graders, 10 Commandments.
I think it's still reasonable.
I know what I'm doing.
Which one is the one over in the corner?
That's the question one.
I know
Okay,
a song.
Everybody's got
Okay.
What?
Thou shalt.
Inquiry based.
Inquiry
That's
based.
one.
Okay, so that's more question and answer. Which one is this?
Guided
Guided
learning.
Yeah, I'm going back. I'm telling you. Old dog.
All right, are you ready to defend us, Dave?
That's what I use.
So tell us why.
So, listen, I always prefer my comfort zone to, yeah, isn't that selfish?
No, it's
But
not.
I gotta control it, so I'm always gonna pick, I think, my strengths. And if I'm gonna employ the other strategies, it will be for a portion
So what are you doing?
where it's a good application.
Time's up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but once you move off of that, if you're just gonna tell me, hey, I got 5th graders and I got 10 things to teach, I could do that.
Yep. Well, that
That's
sounds
my
fair.
inclination, is my first thought is, yeah, I can do this.
That sounds fair.
I probably can't, but.
Yes, you can.
Here's, in some capacity, here's what they are, here's how to remember them.
He stands alone.
Nah, these guys work hand over hand.
They're strong over there.
How do you do it?
Well, I like to,
Yeah?
Using
kids.
I can say
Pictures are nice.
Pictures for
Yep.
where you
And music.
And I always like painting,
which and having pivot to.
but that's how I like to do it.
Yep.
And you got a really good speaker, they can bring you right to the spot, and you're walking. You know, and you're walking with, the mountains and everything.
Can one person summarize the general gist of why people chose guided instruction? Is there one person that can represent the group?
All right, I take the bite.
All right.
Now, like with this, it's basically like when I taught VBS, I had visuals, I had pictures and everything else, and this way I can sort of show them as I'm talking to them what I'm doing and everything else, and I think they respond better to that.
Make it more interactive.
And make more interactive
Okay.
and everything else, and kids, children like that.
Yep, for sure. Okay,
And I
great.
like to hear, you're correct,
Mhm. Okay.
very good.
Very good. Excellent, you guys. All right. And so here's your next scenario. We have 2 more. This is your second to last one. I want my students to consider the effects of living in fear and anxiety versus depending on the Lord for all things. So we're comparing living in fear or living depending on the Lord. So I might use this method to really help them understand. So how will I structure my lesson? Is it going to be direct instruction? Is it going to be guided? Or is it going to be inquiry-based?
Wow.
Excuse me, sir.
Wow.
No wrong answers.
Go ahead, Dave, go to your corner.
Yeah, I want to move away here, buddy, but I'm trying to think it
Stick
through a
with
little.
it, Dave.
Yeah.
Come on, you came this far.
Don't take the hazy like that, Dave.
Yeah. Although,
I'm having a hard time.
Wow, look, they're moving as a group. That's great.
Birds of a feather flock together.
But they were split on the first one, remember?
Rolling.
Yeah.
So they were split on the
I guess we're
first one.
supposed to
could
talk
you,
about.
could you read that one more time?
Yeah, so
Okay.
you want people to consider the effect of living in fear and anxiety
showing them.
versus depending on the Lord.
Helping
Really
the
want to get them
students
to delve
understand
into
the
that.
difference
Okay.
between
Which method
living
really would get
fear
them
of
to the
God
bottom
and
of that?
Sure.
relying on God. Drawing out those deep questions, right? Asking like, what would it look like if you lived a life
I'm
that.
debating, because I'm almost, Dave, I'm almost coming to your side.
Oh, hey, listen, I got a good argument for you.
Is that my DM?
You can ask questions on your side,
I got one of those
Yeah?
things on you.
Yeah, I think you can. So,
Two pictures on it.
Cindy,
Mm-hmm, yes, sir.
fear and anxiety, we said.
Versus depending on the Lord.
Yeah, okay.
So which one would help you flesh that out the best?
So, here's what I think.
And just look at it, you know.
I was telling those guys.
Pretty explanatory.
I like my comfortable arena, you know, first and foremost.
Right.
So I usually pick a strategy that, I have personal confidence, okay? And direct instruction is the way to go. Now, when I do direct instruction, I can do things like, talk about a situation where the outcome is fear and anxiety versus depending on the Lord. All that is a contrast. You know, you're telling this story versus that story. You know, here's this situation and you develop that. And if you're a direct instruction guy, you can still control the conversation, tell the narrative that you want to tell, and lead people to fear and anxiety. You know, and you can say, well, you know, what's the outcome of this fear and anxiety? All right, let's take this situation right here. So I think I can still, in a direct,
And that's kind of what I was thinking too. We were talking about contrasting the
yeah,
story leading into almost where you need to make a decision.
right, yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm envisioning falls more over here.
Yeah, you know, I just, again, it's gonna be hard pressed, I think, to move me from this comfort zone. I think.
All right, so here's your last one. Last chance here to choose a side. Where I am teaching a lesson on Ruth. So we're just telling the story of Ruth and teaching that biblical story. What method should I use to teach this study? There's no wrong answer. The story of Ruth.
Yeah, I'm staying here.
But it's
Looks like I'm gonna have a lot of company down here.
Yeah, we're coming towards
Hey,
you.
watch
You
out.
convinced them
You know,
all to-
we don't really care.
You're doing
What age are we
very,
dealing with now?
very
It doesn't
specific.
matter. I didn't pick one, so you pick any.
But it was interesting what you said though.
I'll play
Starting with where do I?
There you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
that's important to me as
Yeah.
an instructor, is to know that if I'm confident that I know what I know and that I can present what I know, I think the people that are in the arena listening and sitting will be confident as well. Or at least say, well, there's something to be able to transfer here.
That's true.
That's why I like it.
So that means I really have to study Ruth really well because
It's only 4 chapters.
I know.
You got it. You got it. You can do this.
Yeah, maybe in 6 years. No, I'm only.
I don't know, Frank, my predecessor in Sunday school, did the book of Jude over 2 years, so.
I can see that.
Yeah, he did it, and it held everybody's interest.
Did he use other scriptures to back up?
Using the books.
Yeah, other books rather, right. That's exactly,
Yeah.
that is exactly, I would love to teach that way,
Yeah.
but it would take forever.
And it did, yeah, it was, you know, but everybody came, and, you know, I would have called that direct.
All right, you guys, thank you very much.
I was about to change my mind.
That-
Oh, really?
Yeah,
You
because
can tell us
I
why.
thought about
Yeah,
it,
the
because if I
talent
go
for
over
it.
there as
So
well,
see what you're doing, you're
Ruth is
using
not that
scripture to
long.
back up.
Yeah.
and if I'm
Iron
doing the
sharpens
lesson, I
iron.
would then engage them, and when we get to like the gleaning part, you know, what do you think is the purpose of the gleaning, like, you know, and ask them questions as we're going through the information, instead of me saying, okay, this is teaching us, this is direct instruction. That-
So maybe
I
a
would-
combination, right?
Yeah, so then
Some
a
of that, and
combination,
then,
yeah, to
There
certain
is.
points.
Yes.
You know, why do you think she
Yeah,
did this?
there is.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Okay,
Well,
because I didn't.
Kind of engaging.
The
I
type
like
part.
that,
Yeah.
that's great.
get
All
it
right,
over. I
so,
handed in the
really,
instructional
Marilyn brings up a
video,
good
but not
point.
the type part.
And Dave actually mentioned it earlier as well, that just because you pick a certain method to use doesn't mean you have to stick with that the entire lesson. You can pull from various ones for different segments of your lesson. You could do an activity that's very inquiry-based, but then you could wrap it up with a lesson that's very like you delivering to make sure that they get the information the way you wanted. But the activity might have primed their minds in a certain way to get them going. So like Marilyn was stuck between two here at the end because she really wanted a portion of it direct instruction, but she really liked the guided as well. But you can absolutely, mix them and do them that way. So that was great. Thank you all for being cooperative and participating in that. So today, we are going to talk about our fourth method that we're going to be discussing in this class, and it's cooperative learning, all right? And we actually just did a little mini cooperative learning lesson here together while we reviewed our previous information, because cooperative learning really believes that we arrive at the best conclusions when we work together. And so what we did here in our review was that I didn't refresh your memory on everything that you had learned. I didn't spell out for you different ways that you could incorporate these in your lessons. I gave you a prompt and I set up the room, but you taught each other. Raise your hand if somebody said something that impacted you tonight, the way that they described what they would use. Something, yeah. And I think that's what happens when we work together. God gave us, especially in the church, that fellowship, that iron sharpens iron. And the more we can get people talking to each other, the more we grow and learn from each other. So cooperative learning is really one of my favorites. I love using this in classes. It's just really exciting, even with kids, to see them experimenting with sort of finding their voice, formalizing their opinions on things. And it's a really exciting process. So we're going to start with a little video about this. And if you want to take notes, of course, page 11, we left those little areas open for you to jot some notes if you're interested in it. And then we'll talk a little more about it.
Kagan, it's all about engagement. Traditional teaching engages some students, but not all. Kagan is a revolutionary approach to teaching that actively engages every student. Let's look at the problems traditional teaching creates. Students sit in rows. The rule is no talking. The teacher presents new information or a new skill. To engage students, the teacher asks the class a question. One student responds at a time. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? So what's wrong with that? The first problem is we set our students against each other. When the teacher calls on Peter to answer, Susie lowers her hand in disappointment. Ah! But when Peter begins to falter, she shoots her hand back up, waves it wildly. Pick me, teacher. A subset of students compete for the opportunity to shine. A competitive class is not a brain-friendly learning environment. The next problem is students spend very little time actively engaged. The teacher is doing most of the talking most of the time. When we finally do engage students, it's one at a time. It's like being in a long line waiting to be served. A big percent of the class is somewhere between mildly interested and comatose. Many students don't want to turn. They feel they can't or don't want to compete. Johnny is shy. Monica is lower achieving. Juan is still learning English. These students don't want to be singled out. Don't call on me. They hide. They opt out. It's no wonder we have an achievement gap. Traditional teaching engages some of the class, but many students can easily slip through the cracks. Kagan engages all students. We turn things around, literally. Instead of facing the back of a classmate's head, we turn students around to face each other. Instead of calling on one student at a time, we can call on all students. Using a Kagan structure timed pair share, the teacher asks a question. In pairs, partner A shares for 30 seconds. Then partner B shares for 30 seconds. Everyone has a turn. Sharing with a partner is safe. There's no need to hide. In just a little over a minute, we engage every student. In the same amount of time in the traditional class, we engage one student. What's better, engage one student or engage every student? Absolutely right. Everyone learns more. It's not just the amount of engagement that matters. It also matters how we engage students. With Kagan structures, we engage students with interactive pair and team structures. While students master academic curriculum, they develop essential social skills. They learn teamwork skills. They develop communication skills. They practice leadership skills. These are the very college and career readiness skills our standards call for. In teams, students are no longer isolated or competing against each other. They celebrate each other's successes. They are on the same side. Cooperation leads to kinder and more caring kids. We create buddies, not bullies. Kagan's simple yet powerful structures transform education. In numbered heads together, teammates put their heads together to review. Everyone is more active and the content becomes more memorable. In quiz trade, students repeatedly quiz classmates. They have so much more fun being up and active than working alone. In rally coach, partners solve problems together. Instead of independent practice, students have a peer to coach them and provide immediate feedback. Why teach the traditional way when we have so many alternatives to engage every student? Kagan isn't something we think might work. Kagan is scientifically research-based. Hundreds of studies on cooperative learning show tremendous academic and social gains over traditional learning. With Kagan, teachers are engaging their disengaged students. Struggling schools are making dramatic gains. Entire districts are raising their test scores. Kagan works. Kagan works because Kagan creates full engagement for every student. Engaged students aren't bored or disruptive. Engaged students enjoy school more. Engaged students learn more. Kagan, it's all about engagement.
Wow, shameless plug, right? All right, so hopefully that gave you like a little insight into some of the benefits of this. And all of the cooperative learning strategies have these like cutesy titles, so they kind of stick in your mind about how to use them. The one we used today was called Corners, and you put different answers in a corner, and then you have students do exactly what you guys did, gravitate to the one that answers their question, and then they talk to other students who went there about why they're there. One thing you don't want to do in a corners setup is to have a wrong answer somewhere, because then what you're really doing is like putting all the people on display who like chose the wrong answer, right? So all of them have to be reasonable to some degree or another. It was interesting that when I was creating this activity for today for us to review, when I was creating today's activity, I formulated the scenarios thinking of certain ones that I would have chosen, and it was kind of funny because the blob of people kind of went the path of my thinking, so that was kind of funny. I think I would have hung with all of you guys. So anyway, page 17 of our, in the back of our notes, gives you a little chart. There are so many more cooperative learning strategies. You can get a Spencer Kagan book on cooperative learning that will better explain all of them, but this is like a little snapshot of some of the more used ones. You'll see that these are the top 10. The top corner here says Corners. That was the one that you did tonight, so you have practice with the Corners technique. Another one that Keith and I both have used a lot and really enjoy is the Think, Pair, Share. And Think, Pair, Share is fun because you take a moment as an individual to think about what your answer would be, but then you pair up with somebody else, you discuss it with them, and so you kind of like learn and grow together. And then between the two of you, you choose one person to share to the class. And just in that activity, it's amazing how your mind broadens from what you initially thought, and then you're bringing in somebody else's opinion, and you're contemplating that, but then you get to hear what the whole class was thinking in all of their teams. And by the end, your concept of what you chose really kind of grows. So we're going to do that here in a few minutes. And that's down here on the bottom left-hand side, the Think, Pair, Share. But there are other really good ones. Circles is a great one too. Just you can look them up. I'm sure that even on YouTube you can see examples of them being played out in a classroom to see how they work. But they're actually really a lot of fun. And 9 times out of 10, the kids are just thrilled to be a part of what it is that you're instructing and adults too. So it's worth your time to look into those and do some of them. Try them out. Okay. Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Does this work for all populations? I worked in a prison,
Okay?
okay, and you have some people who will not cooperate.
Sure,
Okay, so I usually use the direct method,
sure,
you know, because it's very authoritative.
sure.
And also, I worked with people who are schizophrenic, and I just don't see this working at all
Yeah.
with that population.
Sure, and that's a very valid point. That's a good point. And you know, I did part of my student teaching at a detention center for teens, but same kind of setting. And it's interesting when you walk in, you sort of, you know, you get the tone of the room, and you start to teach them, and you start to sense. Sometimes kids are actually, well, of course these aren't kids necessarily you're talking about, but humans in general. Sometimes I think people are, even if they are hard, tough people who have been through some tough things, they may actually respond well to sensing that you want to know their opinion and that you're entrusting them with a little bit of freedom. But I think it's good in any scenario when you come in where this is more inductive, okay, it's more like open-ended, to have a backup to switch to that's deductive. Because if you come in and you sense the environment, this is not the day for this. These people are off the rails, I can sense your tension. You can just seamlessly switch into your direct instruction and move through the content. But if you sense there is an opportunity, you know, they may actually really appreciate the respect that you're giving them, the opportunity to share what they think. I mean, how many people in a prison are asked what they think, maybe very often. And so perhaps that could be an inroad, you know. So, but you're absolutely right, and it's good to have a backup that is perhaps very direct instruction, you know, prepared to switch into if you sense it's not going to go that way today, you know. But yeah, you definitely have to gauge the room, for sure. Great question. So let's do one more of these. I want to try our Think, Pair, Share. And then I'm going to wrap up with asking you guys what some of the benefits you think of this style of learning might be. So be thinking about that while we do this activity. We're going to do a Think, Pair, Share. You have a question on here to think about. And if you wouldn't mind pairing up with the person closest to you, that would be terrific.
I should come up in front of you. Hold on.
No, it's okay.
Sure?
Yeah, it's fine.
So take a minute to think, and I'll let you know when it's time to pair. Maybe Brian.
Yeah, he's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
I'm fine, just got balance issues.
Got balance.
Yeah. Not
Take
very
a moment
well
to
balanced.
think and jot your two things
nothing else
down
wrong.
there. And I'll let you know when we're going to switch to pair, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Think about two teaching methods and strategies you had purposed to use in any teaching opportunity you may have had in the past. Okay? So, you want to start?
Yeah, I would use the direct method because you can give out instruction, and I had a really diverse populations I've taught, okay? I've taught schizophrenics, I've taught prison, major to maximum custody. I've taught people with autism.
Inmates? Inmates?
All right, as soon as you
Inmates,
have
yeah,
your
prison
bullets
inmates,
filled in, feel free to
Medium
pair
max-
with each
medium
other
maximum-
and
maximum
share your
custody is
thoughts.
like, you don't go very far. Medium custody is a little better, they can walk around more often.
So direct instruction?
Yeah, because you got somebody who's really, you've got people who, especially in prison, where you can't give them too much leeway because they'll take a mile.
Okay. So direct instruction will be one. What would be a second?
Cooperative.
Cooperative? Something like what we just did.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to say mine also would be direct instruction. But I like the one over here, least learn. I think I've used a couple of times in different settings with some success.
Okay, I can see that.
Okay, all right, what else we got here? What's the next thing we gotta do? All right, pair up with another student and take turns sharing. Okay, so we were kind of doing that already, so, let's see. Consolidate your list into one shared list of your favorites. Okay, so both, it looks like both you and me are comfortable in direct instruction. And you like cooperative, and I'm comfortable in inquiry-based instruction. So that's a good list right there. So I'm just going to say the three that we tend to go more towards is direct instruction, inquiry-based instruction, and cooperative, and collaborative instruction. How's that?
That sounds good for me.
All right, so there's our good list. We got three there. All right, now, it says here, share your team's shared list with the clients. Okay, so, okay, I guess that's yet to come, but if you were going to share it here, what would you say? And you kind of started this in.
I would use direct as my main. But you would.
I would too.
Okay, especially with all the populations I work with.
Me too. Yeah, I taught technical workers, and so they were adults, and they didn't want fun and games. They wanted to tell me the facts, get me out of here, and they would move on. But I used to use a strategy where I would schedule a training session for like Wednesday, and on Monday I would send out a worksheet with questions that they would have to go look up answers to on their own. And that's why I think it requires this. And then we get together on Wednesday and talk about all their worksheets.
That's what I was doing during my, when I was teaching Bible class.
Oh, yeah. See, so you applied it in a biblical sense. Yeah, so that's a good way to do it as well. I've gotten a lot of mileage.
I also taught kids too. I was a lot of teaching. I'm surprised.
So you got a pretty vast background from the class.
But, yeah. You gotta be careful with ones with, I don't usually, with the populations I work with, I do not ask a lot of abstract questions. Whoa. You're going to get all kinds of people. I'm going to build, I'm going to start my own bordello. If you say something abstract to them, they'll take you literally. Somebody with autism, you know. Gee, I'm so frustrated. I'm going to jump out of a window. Guess what?
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah, they're freaking out. You know, so I've learned, you know, maybe I'm a little too complicated.
All right, so hopefully you had a chance to think and you had a chance to share with your buddy.
Okay.
And now we're going to do the share part with the class. We'll be paired, now we're going to share. So you just need to pick between you one person to sort of represent your group of two. And give us a quick summary. It does not need to be exhaustive what everybody, you know, each person thought, but just in general, what did you guys discuss and what did you choose for your answers there? So is there a team that would like to go first? All right, Mike and Doug.
Okay, I was chosen. So Darla and I discussed, she just actually did something in her class that was, she didn't know it was called Experts, which is a cooperative-based learning where she let somebody, the kids go home, research, come back and report what they found based off the questions she gave them. So that was something that she had done recently. And I do a lot of stuff in class. So the guided instruction, like I said, with the IEW, with the keyword outlines, you model. You have them model with you, then they go do it on their own. Inquiry-based questions, things like document-based questions that kids have to read primary sources and answer questions based off what they're reading. So they're asked, the questions are there that find out the answers themselves. So they're, you know, using those higher level thinking skills. I always go back to what Pastor Keith says, who, what, when, where, why, how, you know, the journalistic questions. So it's a plethora.
Yeah, I'm
You know?
sure. And you have a lot of opportunity every single day.
Yeah, and I've tried some of these things, and sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't work,
Yeah.
you know, depending on the atmosphere you're in and the clientele you have that day, and if it's a full moon.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
sometimes it works with one class, and not so well with the other class.
Wow, and that's a good point for us to remember too, because if we try something like this and it a little bit sours our first attempt, that doesn't mean that you didn't do a good job maybe of putting it together. It's just, it really can have different outcomes. Thank you, Mike and Darla, that's really great. Who else would like to share for their team?
I'm up?
Dave,
Okay. So Ray's gonna say a line or two here at the end.
all right.
All right, so we built a list of 3. We both liked direct instruction, and it was a cooperative, collaborative instruction. Ray's more comfortable there. I have had success with inquiry-based instruction. We both seem to have experiences in the adult world more than the,
Sure.
and we're talking vocational more than church-related stuff. Although Ray did have some experiences with that I think he's going to share. So we like those, and we've had success. I was talking to somebody last week. I can't remember who it was, but I think there was on inquiry-based. I called it inquiry-based instruction. Andrew actually set up, when he was doing that New Testament survey, he had us go home and do these multiple choice tests. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And then and it was open reference, and he gave us the notes. And so what I don't know that he recognized that he set this up, but it was on Google Classroom. So when you chose a right answer, you got immediate feedback.
Oh,
it was
okay, gotcha.
yes or no. You got it right or you got it wrong. And that perhaps inadvertently set up learning opportunities, because all you had to do was look at the question and go find the answer in the notes. However, many of us said, I'm not going to look it up in the notes, I know the answer to this.
There you go.
And then we would get it wrong. And then debate would ensue. And the debate was actually some of the best part, I thought. And we had to kick those types of things around. So I think inquiry-based instruction. Ray was going to add to this.
Well, the only thing I would say is most of the populations I work with, concrete thinking is definitely there, and you've got to stay on that.
Yes.
If you get off of that, you are going to be in a heap of trouble.
Yeah.
Even some simple things, like when I work with the autistic population, you could use all 5 senses, you could squirm in things and, paint and all of that. That's fine. But when you're working with people that have severe mental disorders, okay? You're not going to show a picture and say, what do you think?
No, right.
Wow. You could have decimal. Yeah, no open-ended stuff,
Yeah.
okay? So I would, and even now, I have a hard time doing that. And also, there's something called ABA, okay, which is Applied Behavioral Analysis. It's really great for autistic people with autism, I'm sorry, there's not autistic people, okay? Some people in mental health work, mental field that have issues, okay? That works really well too. The only thing I could say is it's just not very godly. You could do things with that which is not
Wow.
It opens up the opportunity for tangents. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
The guy who invented it, he was a real smart guy, but kept his kid in something called the Skinner box.
Oh, man.
And he experimented on his own young kid.
Oh, man.
Hey, let's move out of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like B.F. Skinner.
Yeah, B.F. Skinner, Burris F. Skinner, Burris Fitzgerald Skinner.
Thank you, guys. That's great.
Psycho.
Appreciate the information, and that's
It is
true.
good.
Special
If you
needs
use it
require
right.
special strategies, right?
Yeah.
Johnson's.
For the wife, she likes a mixture of inquiry and guided. So she likes to get the feedback from the class and input throughout. And she provided examples to enhance the learning experience. With me, like I said, I like the direct instruction and the guided instruction. Like using VDS got taught was that I sort of made a rapport with the class. They were like 12 or whatever. A lot of stuff they like, I like. You know, I watch cartoons, I read comic books, and all that kind of stuff like that. So when you got that part out, it lowers everything. They won't be looking at you, really serious, and the whole tension of the class lowers.
Yeah.
And then when you start to talk to them, and like if I was using the video that you had, where you start to talking to them, but yet you're showing visuals with that, it also makes it fun, and they can learn because they're seeing. And then you also too, you guiding the whole class, and you give them the instruction, and then they will pay attention more. And then they be then since you already lowered that, the tension and all that, then they willing to come to you if they need to ask questions and they feel comfortable.
Yeah, I like that. It's like you related with them, now they trust you, and that's awesome. Very good. All right.
Yeah, so I think Brian and I both kind of gravitate towards the inquiry a little bit, inquiry-based. Just because I think one of the qualities I heard you say is we kind of both approach groups as if we're not the smartest person in the group. And so we're looking to learn what does everybody else know in order to learn ourselves, but also to be able to provide what we know. And then I think collaboration kind of blends into that a little bit too, because we're working together in our efforts. And I think even for me on a personal note, like as away from ministry, but as having a toddler now, I'm learning how to, all right, this is what it is. All right, let's do it together. And now you can do it now. Try it yourself. And so I think that I'm learning that a little bit more.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that, Lester.
I never thought it was that.
I'm learning.
So that was wonderful, and thanks again for participating, you guys. And I hope that we've given you a taste for cooperative learning and what can be done, and I hope you'll look more into it and try it out. Just try it at some point in some lesson or one activity, because I think it'll be worth your time. You'll like the results. So what are some of the benefits of collaborative learning that are not realized with let's say, the previous 3 or other learning strategies, other methods? What do we learn collaboratively? What are the benefits to this? Why take the time to set these things up?
Everybody's involved.
Okay.
More often.
Great.
No one's feel like they left out, or no one's like a competitive thing in that way, because everybody's heard equally.
Yep. Okay, great. What about in your own mind as you went through, thinking about it, pairing up with somebody, and then sharing the class? How do you grow in your own mind? What happens to our thoughts when we go through a collaboration process? Brian?
I do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll study things, and then if I have any questions, I have an idea what I believe, but it's not concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll talk to somebody who has some knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't give me the answer, I talk to another person.
Mm-hmm.
And you get little bits and pieces sometimes.
Yes.
And sometimes there is no answer.
Sure,
Wow.
sure. Yeah. And sometimes it's just the journey of thinking about it that took us to a new place. Very good. I think it formalizes our thoughts because you're put in a position where you're going to have an opinion, right? You had to choose one of these corners to go stand in, so you had to have an opinion. And so it kind of makes you sort of think it through and be prepared to defend it. And I think that right there gives you that motivation to think a little more deeply than just receiving our conclusions or your teacher's conclusion. It can be inspiring to other people. They hear you share something, they think, I never thought of it that way. That's really neat, and that may stick with them. May cause other people to rethink some of their conclusions, right? They might think they have a conclusion until they hear everybody else, and they're like, wait a second, I think I have a different opinion now, right? And of course, just working together. We talked about how, especially in the Christian community where we have the fellowship of the Lord, that really is a beautiful thing, how we learn and grow from other people. So that's what we wanted to share with you about cooperative learning. And then Keith is going to move into our last one that we're going to cover here of our methods on page 11, which is authentic learning experiences.
Yeah, before we get into that, Cyndi and I had talked and said, we're not going to share what we had come up with, but I decided, yeah, maybe I will just real quick. Cyndi, this video that had Kagan on it is Spencer Kagan was a developer of the cooperative learning, many cooperative learning strategies. And Cyndi gave me a book that she had from her education at Liberty University and then Cedarville University, and I actually utilized it. It's funny that Darla or Mike, on behalf of Darla, just mentioned the expert group thing that she did. I'm not sure if this is exactly how it went, but I believe that was you were describing a portion of the jigsaw strategy by Spencer Kagan, which is you start people off in a home group and you give them each an assignment, and you have several different groups. Then you jigsaw them out from that home group, and all of the like numbers or the like assignments for the various groups all come together. Their job is to now become an expert on that concept or on that particular topic. And then they split back out and they return to their home groups as experts, and now the experts are sharing with everyone else around the table. It takes longer to do something like that, but the benefit of them being together and becoming experts and then having the thrill of sharing as an expert with the rest of their group, who now introduces another concept called reciprocal teaching, which is the students become the teachers. And there's a lot of teaching that goes on within these student groups. So that's the jigsaw strategy, and that was one of the strategies that I employ. It is one of the strategies I employ when I break apart the Declaration of Independence with my students, and also when we examine the articles of the Constitution together. It makes for a neat and different way of tackling that content in my 7th grade U.S. history class. Cyndi, like I said, gravitates towards collaboration strategies for obvious reasons. She is a collaborator herself. She believes in collaboration, and she enjoys empowering her students, whether it be adults or whether it be kids. She enjoys empowering them and allowing them to arrive at meaningful conclusions with the guidance that she gives. So she trends towards the inductive method of approach. I actually employed today, just so that you know, we are not just disseminators of information, but I employed today the object lesson strategy, which was one of the methods that Jesus uses to teach in my sermon. And so it was on the parable of the lamp, and I decided, well, let me fast forward this into the 21st century. And so throughout my message, I kept referencing a camping lamp fueled by camping fuel with the double wicks. And so I used that as a 21st century takeoff on the 1st century lamp that Jesus was referring to in his lesson. So my point is, it doesn't matter what context you are in, whether you're preaching, whether you're teaching a Sunday school class, whether you're at home with your kids, There is a place for each and every one of these things, and I think my takeaway was with Dave, who said, you know, I think I'd be inclined to use one of these other strategies. Am I kind of talking like you did? I'd be kind of inclined to use one of these strategies at a spot in my lesson, but he, like myself, falls onto the sage on the stage, not just joking, I call it sage on the stage. I have to break myself of the sage on the stage mentality and empower the learners who are in front of me. But I gravitate towards direct instruction. And direct instruction is useful, but no one method should be the only thing that you do. It is good to stretch yourself and to mix it up a little bit for your own personal benefit and for the benefits of the people that you're teaching. So that was a good takeaway that I had from Dave, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. Authentic learning experiences. Okay. What do you suppose, let me put it out there, what do you think this means? Authentic learning experiences.
Doing it.
Doing it. Define that. What do you mean by that? Like how?
Well, it's interesting. This might not be the best example, but a student in the ELA class across the hall, they're learning Shakespeare. And he just seemed like he knew what he was doing. So she's like, you have to teach the class. And he's like, absolutely. And he did it, and he did a good job. So he became the teacher of the class. He got into the shoes of teaching something about Shakespeare, which I don't even, Carla knows more about Shakespeare than I do, so she can tell me. But whatever, iambic pentameter, I don't know. So.
Okay. No, all right, cool. I think the key word there was doing. Lester, what were you
I
going to say?
was thinking, I'm wondering if this even fits into this category, but I was thinking something along the lines of a missions trip, like going and just immersing yourself in understanding how the gospel is shared that way.
Yeah. What is the benefit of something like that, a missions trip? Like what potentially is learned?
Having not been on one, I'm guessing, right? But I'm thinking just how another culture would live, how to relate to other people and really understand that we're one human race and we all need the gospel and like other basic things.
Absolutely. And you know, if you're in another country and you happen to be in the midst of a worship service with them, you realize that your puny little view as an American worshiping in your cozy American church is not the standard or necessarily the definition of worship, that worship transcends culture. And so you have the opportunity to learn that too, but I love what you just said, Lester. Brian.
Yeah, I was just observing, ministers, pastors, whatever you want to call them, and Pastor Lee, herself, actually were missionaries,
Yeah.
and spent time in the missionary field, and now are here with us, having not been to the missionary field, has to add a lot more to telling us we should, if we thought about to want to be missionaries, this is what we're looking at, because you've been there. And you can't beat the hands-on stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had a person tell me this morning that they went to Palestine and walked in the steps of Jesus.
Wow.
And I thought, that's wonderful, you know what I mean? I can only picture it in my mind, but to be there,
Yeah.
Would that
Absolutely.
be then an example of an authentic learning
Yep.
experience, like go into Palestine?
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. All of these things, Mike really hit upon the key word in the definition, and Lester and Brian and whoever else contributed here gave excellent examples. Honestly, you just taught the lesson that I now don't have to do. But just for kicks, let's take a look at the definition. It really is all about doing. You want them to do, because by doing, they are experiencing, and by experiencing, they're getting practical and useful skills in the midst of their doing. That's what you'll want. Students are more likely to be interested in what they are learning, more motivated to learn new concepts and skills, and better prepared to succeed if their learning equips them for doing. So the job of the teacher then is in preparation, to give them, to ensure that they possess the requisite skills to be able to apply those skills to tasks. If they're doing, if you give them opportunity to do, then there will be learning. You may not even intend for them to learn that particular thing, but there is going to be learning that takes place. No doubt about it. Authentic learning experiences, it mirrors real life context. It equips with practical and useful skills and addresses topics that are relevant and applicable to everyday life. Take, for instance, church ministry, kids Sunday school, Awana, youth group, choir, adult Sunday school, deacon boards, missions committees, Calvary Bible Church Homeschool Cooperative, CBCH, small groups, which we really don't have formalized small groups at this point in time. Think about all of those things. What would be an example of an authentic learning experience that you could provide for a children's Sunday school class? Any topic, it's a kids' Sunday school. What could be something that you could do together with kids that would qualify as an authentic learning experience? Yeah.
I guess I have a qualifying question. So,
Okay.
So could you use an object lesson as part of that?
Sure.
Because I was thinking about a recent sermon about like the seeds falling on good ground, and I thought, I wonder if having the Sunday school plant flowers around the church to like, something like that would fit here.
What would you do while they're doing that particular activity to reinforce the concept that you want them to take away?
I'd be talking about that passage and that parable, and just really kind of drilling it in there.
Yeah.
That's authentic learning.
And what are they going to think every time they walk by that path and watch their flower thriving in the good soil, right? That's like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So you've taken the parable of Jesus and you've fast forwarded it to. So where did you go to school to get your education degree?
Calvary High School.
No, but you know what? Listen, it isn't rocket science. All of us are teachers. Just because there may be those who possess a 4-year baccalaureate degree in education and maybe a master's degree, and even gone on to postgraduate study, that's not what qualifies you. What qualifies you is a keen interest in people, in first of all God's Word, and in seeing people come to love it. Doing things just like that. And you referenced the wonderful thing that Andrew did. Whether he knew it or not, I actually vaguely remember the conversation about that and that he intended what actually happened.
Yeah.
Andrew taught for 3 years at Faith Christian School. Guess how many education courses he had?
0.
His first
0.
day in a classroom, he was the teacher because he was homeschooled all his life. So it's kind of funny, but he was an innate teacher. The Lord gave him the ability to teach. It wasn't something he learned from a book.
Not only that, one of the things I noticed immediately when I looked at the questions, and this was just me. Now, you need to know something about who I am and what I do. I write multiple choice exams for a living,
Yeah.
okay? And I've been doing this for 40 years. So when I looked at Andrew's question technique, I said, he can do what I can do, and I'm a professional. And what I mean by that is he asked a question and had one right answer and 3 almost right answers, okay? And in my business, that's called plausibility. And the people that I write exams for will not permit me to submit a question that, asks a question where I can throw a distract or a wrong answer away immediately. That's not allowed in my business, you see. So when I saw that, I said, this kid's got some natural talent for this. So, and sure enough, I watched, and the first time I saw it, Danny had a question about a question, and we were discussing it, and I could tell Danny was getting a little hot about it, and I said, this is outstanding. And I laughed. Then I got a wrong question. Then it wasn't as funny. And I said, this is excellent. So I had never talked to Andrew about whether or not he set that up on purpose. But I saw that sometimes there is more learning that is done in the test taking and the discussion following the test than goes on in the direct address.
Interesting.
Yeah. Assessments can be a really good tool for learning. But it's important that you circle back and review that. It can be an effective instructional strategy.
One of the things I vocationally do is, every multiple choice exam that I write is 100 questions long. And when people are done taking the exam, we have to go back and review the exam with the entire class. And I always challenge the folks, know why the right answer is the right answer and know why the wrong answers are wrong.
Yeah.
And so they got 400 pieces of information to figure out there. So,
Yeah.
anyway.
So let's stick with authentic learning experiences. So we had the kids' Sunday school, and man, that was a really great example. Let's take, for instance, choir. Let's go to a different ministry altogether, where you may not see teaching and learning happening, though it definitely does. How could you provide in choir, let's just say broad speaking, the music ministry. How could you manufacture some sort of a authentic learning experience for people within the music ministry that would result in the encouragement of other people?
Could you repeat the question?
How could you, I don't know if I could because I made it up. How could you manufacture an authentic learning experience within a music ministry where you extend the gift of, where you end up being an encouragement to others?
So what you're producing is going to encourage others, not necessarily encourage them.
And they would learn.
Music ministry, but just encourage them.
No,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
the concept is encouragement.
Okay.
And so everybody
Can I
benefits.
flip them?
Go ahead.
I was, maybe we're on the same track here. Like, for example, years ago, Aaron went with Dan and Alyssa Dugan to what manor?
No, it was a little chapel.
No. The old folks' home.
Oh!
Pleasant
Pleasant
Valley?
Valley?
Yeah, Pleasant.
Okay, yeah.
So they took their music talents that God gave them and brought that light in a Christian way to a home where people don't always have that light. And so they were able to use their talents in that way, authentically. Is that what you were thinking?
No.
Oh.
Were you thinking something
I was
else?
just asking.
Oh, I thought you'd have the
I
example.
wanted to understand the question, whether it was
I'm sorry, I thought you
supposed
had
to
the example
result in
in mind.
other people wanting to join the music ministry or just be uplifting to those who hear, maybe going to a place where they are encouraged by observing and hearing someone in music ministry. Is to be the receiver so that you know the gift you're giving to the receiver of your gift.
Sure. Well, I think that there has been a dual learning experience in what you just described, for those who are going and doing the playing and for those who are doing the receiving. The ones who went to the Pleasant Valley Manor and did the playing, what did they learn by doing that?
Service.
Serving, giving.
They also learned about the effect of the music on the people hearing it and how music can be used as a tool to reach hearts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you see, these are a couple of examples. Now you think of any other, you take a moment right now, any other ministry within a church. How could you manufacture, how could you develop an authentic learning experience? Within any context, any ministerial context. Think about it, come up with an idea. Probably should have done that. Think, perish, share.
Okay, where's your paper?
Yeah.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Think of any ministry within the church. How could you create an authentic learning experience? It's just totally wide open. I'm asking for you to come up with an idea. Anything. Any additional, then we'll have 3. And we'll conclude with a 4th that I have here that Cyndi just circled, which is a good one.
I think with the deacons,
Okay.
that a lot of times, like you said here, that you want to get the deacons together for, do the rounds and maintain the property and everything else. But then also too, that let them do other things, like maybe teaching, or, maybe going to, like you said, the Pleasant, the
Valley Manor.
Yeah, the manor and everything else. So not only will they see leadership there, but they also see service there too. And these are, jobs of, the deacon too. So it's not necessarily that they're basically, for lack of better words, like maintenance men all
Sure.
the time. That there are other things that not only they will build their character and their, whatever, their knowledge and everything else, but it will show other people that this is what, service is, and these are leaders doing it. So it makes them think that they're not, if leaders are doing this, then it's fine for others to do it because they're not beyond, doing whatever it is.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. That's great, Danny. And along the lines of deacons, one thing that they started doing this year is we have at least 2 or 3 people within our church who are not able to get out of their homes to come to church. And so when we celebrate the Lord's Supper, communion, once a month, they're in their home while we're here remembering the Lord's body and blood on the first Sunday of every month. The deacons take those elements that we prepare ahead of time and they deliver them to those folks so that they can participate through the live stream in communion. I don't know if those of you that attend Calvary, if you are aware of that, but that was something I do, we do, you do.
Yeah.
Cyndi and I were taking care of that delivery, got together with the deacons, said, this is what we're doing, we'd like for us to do this. Well, this is where it happens, and now can you do this? And that's authentic because the learning happened all the way around. Deacons are learning the value of meeting people's needs and being servant leaders, and the people who are receiving those elements are learning about the value that we have for them, even though they cannot physically attend. There's so much that happens,
I like that.
and it's authentic.
We were saying, somebody mentioned before about Palestine, is that you, Brian? Yeah. So the Holy Lands, I haven't gone, but the people who have gone, when they come back, they're just that amazement that they saw it firsthand, right? So I'm thinking of like, it's not really a thing, but like semi-authentic learning experiences. We can't all go or we can't all take a class, right? However, with YouTube, the internet, I mean, if you know Ray Vander Laan's series That the World May Know, that's what it's all built on. He teaches from Israel, and he'll be at a site and he'll say, okay, this gate is called the Eye of the Needle, and it's where the camels go through it. So that's why it's more possible to go through the Eye of the Needle, which is this small gate, versus, and he tells you and you see it for yourself. So even though we can't necessarily, we would love to, pack up our Sunday school kids and go to the Holy Lands and really have this authentic experience, we can still imagine that, and we can, through the internet or videos, we can show them and give them that really cool insight from here, you know. So
Well, it's called virtual field trips, and just do an internet search and try to find virtual field trips. I mean, I take my students to George Washington's Mount Vernon every year, from the classroom. But the 3D, ultra high definition quality of the 360 panoramic views of George Washington's Mount Vernon mansion and the grounds outside is stunning. And it's like the next best thing to actually going there. So there may be something that exists for whatever content you may be tasked with teaching in your respective ministries. Brian?
What would virtual reality fall under?
Virtual reality?
No, this, I think.
This?
How about a Bible track?
A what?
A Bible track that has the picture, the cartoon in it, and then you have, you know, sins of the world, and you're walking, you know, and, or the cross that has, or the old Lord's Gym T-shirts we used to have. Sins of the world, Jesus, you know, I mean, that's given example.
Yeah, you know, I think the important thing is come back to authentic learning is you want for there to be empowerment unto doing. So these are tools for instruction, objects perhaps. So that's a tough one, but I think authentic learning, like I said, means empowerment for doing. And so if it fits that criteria, then it's authentic.
Well, if you had a cross laid out and you had the kids carry the cross, it gave an example.
There you go. Now you're cooking with gas.
The youth group, a couple years ago, a while ago, the kids were encouraged to write a sin that was heavy on their hearts on a paper and then fold it multiple times. And there was a cross in the youth room. And they took and they nailed their sin to the cross all folded up. And they hung it as a visual reminder that my sins are on the cross, they're all forgiven. And so that would be another way of making it authentic.
Yeah.
What about?
Yeah.
What about sending people out that need help? Like getting groceries, older people. They learn from them, you know, caring for their basic needs, how to set up their meds.
Yep.
All of those things.
Those tend to be youth group generated. Our Koinonia Youth Ministry has done that very thing. Preparing someone's bed who they're unable to do that anymore, and so they may throw mulch in there for them, or we used to call it, what they've done in the past, a rake and run. Now it's backpack blowers and run. And help people who, you know, I know somebody in our congregation had tried to go back to his 30s and he snapped his leg in 3 places and was laid up and couldn't take care of his yard. The kids went over with backpack blowers. It was done in like half an hour, and he was thrilled and couldn't wait to provide them with lots of pizza, and they were thrilled, and you know, it's just good all the way around.
He was raking leaves and fell out of a tree.
He was raking leaves and fell out. That's right, Brian. His name was Brian, too. Boy, he was a lively fellow.
So good.
But anyway, authentic learning experiences. You want to connect it to real life. And if you can connect it to real life, there's going to be immersion as part of the learning. Listen, we have finished. We are all good here. But I just want to give you an opportunity. First of all, let me just say it's been our pleasure to be able to spend this time with you guys. I hope that you have found it profitable. I hope that you have, if like we said in the very beginning, you have a tool belt that you've at least filled a few slots of the tool belt with some tips and tricks and some strategies. I know that we run the gamut in here from professional teachers who have been 40 years in the vocation to people who just want to be better equipped to glorify God and in whatever capacity He might have for them in ministry. Listen, it doesn't matter. What qualifies you is your willingness to be used by God and obey Him unto service. That's what qualifies all of us. But it's been 4 weeks now of time together, and I just wonder. I'm going to give you one last shot at it. After this, there's no emailing. I'm just kidding. You guys can reach out to us at any time, and we would be happy to dialogue with you. But I wonder if you have any questions, any burning questions, even comments regarding this class?
Not that, you know, this has been the best of all so far. Not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but you guys have involved us, and the time that we have seems to go by like that, and that's because of the way you instruct. So I appreciate that.
Appreciate that. There is a lot of value. And you know what? This is kind of a testimony, an illustration of the different teaching methods and when they're best employed. Some of the content within Calvary School of the Bible just lends itself to direct instruction. No doubt about it. Some of the classes allow for a little bit more interactivity. And other classes like this one, how stupid would it have been for us to sit here and just lecture you for 4 classes straight on how not to lecture all the time? You know?
But I will say, our education classes, maybe you found the same thing, the professors, that seemed to be what they did.
That's what they do.
That's
Right?
exactly what they
It was
did.
shocking.
Here's what not to do.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Johnson's.
Got some questions
What's
over here? Got over here?
Yeah. I'm gonna let you two fight it out, and then I'll take each of your questions.
I'll go first.
Danny deferred.
Yeah.
Good job, brother.
He's well trained. I really enjoyed this class. This was really, I'm a nerd, so I like these kind of things, and I learned so much.
Oh, good.
To me, it's like a parallel, because it's useful for like everyday stuff, but more so useful for my walk in the Lord. You know, these are things that, you know how when you think you know the stuff, but then the way both of you taught it, it's like, I didn't know this. You know, and I'm just very thankful. I'm thankful that I didn't take the class, but thankful that we're able to come here. Thankful that we're able to take this. You know, we're here to take the whole program, and I just really can't thank you guys. I keep thanking you, like in the emails. I thank Pastor Lee. You know, very appreciative that the Lord was able to have us open the door so that we can come. You know, you're really doing a service to be able to have this program. And take it from us that we don't come here, we don't get to see you, we go to Mountain Stream, but you're making an impact because you're touching other people. So, you know, just thank you.
Well, and I would like for you to take this back to Pastor James. We talked with area pastors about this Calvary School of the Bible, and we made it abundantly clear our intent is not to draw people away from your churches. Our intent is to equip people with the gospel and to become students of the Word and lovers of the Word so that they can impact their community and the Poconos and be more effective in their ministry in their respective churches. Please give Pastor James my regards. He's a good man, and I'm glad that you have him as your pastor.
Yeah, I surely will.
So relay that message to him.
Yeah, I surely will. And I think I sent you the information that
Yeah.
he advertises it.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's great.
So
Yeah.
I surely will let him know.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, not only does he do it, but Pastor Jimmy, when he comes, he do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like, with your question, is like, you know, you always get somebody, oh yeah, I'm waiting for this to come up, this and this, and to come up. When it come up, nobody comes.
Yeah.
We had one person that did come. They went through the, I think it was inductive class, or, no, it was inductive. And that was it. They didn't come back no more, you know? And, but like with me, like I said, I thought this was a very good class. And then also too, it gave me the names to what that I was possibly doing or touching on as I was, you know, maybe when I be teaching. So, you know, you're thinking that you're just teaching straight out, but now you know, okay, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. So if I know this is working, then I know if I'm only skimming it, then I can get into it even more, be more effective in that way. Because I come to find out, like when you go to like VBS or whatever it is, you get all types of children, you know. And you might get some, you know, you get some children who are shy, outspoken. You might have some kids that might have some certain needs or whatever it is. So when you get them all together, you have to, everybody has to feel like, like everybody, everybody has to feel good. So you have to learn how to do that too. And like I said, this gives names to things, and then it's something that I can get into more because I'll be glad to try it out within a month or two, because I'll be teaching BDS. So this is,
Oh, that's awesome.
this would be a good thing to do, so I can be able to use it. And I'll let you know how everything works.
Yeah, do, that'd be
And if
fun.
it don't work, I say,
But you know what, I think what you said, like, you've probably, all of you have probably employed these strategies. And you may not, you couldn't put a name to the strategy, it was common sense. And that's what a lot of this is common sense. And like I said, it's not rocket science. And I think the name of the game is flexibility and adaptation. What you may do with, kids that are pre-K to grade 1, you're not going to be doing with the 6th graders in a VBS. And so it means knowing who it is that you're dealing with and being willing to pivot to do something that's more appropriate to them. And if you are a teacher of people, because you love people and you love God's Word, and you want those people that you love to be able to be enriched by it, that's different than being a disseminator of information. Otherwise, you become impersonal and indifferent to the people that are before you. You have people in front of you, and that's what's most important. Any other comments or questions?
I'm glad to let all my hair down to do all of this.
It landed on your face.
I'm going to use a lot of this because honestly, I was scared to use a lot of this stuff. I really was. And now, I'll be working, we're going to have prayer sessions, and we're going to have over the summer with adults over at my church. And I can't wait to use a whole load of these techniques. See which ones I'm good at. Some of it I might have to go, no. But I see what then I'll grow into them.
In moderation, there's nothing wrong with experimentation. And you know what? Sometimes, not failure is a strong word, but sometimes a trip up is a good learning experience. Because if
It's authentic.
It's authentic. It is an authentic learning experience, and it allows you the opportunity to self-reflect and refine and come back and do it better the next time.
And church is the best place to teach. If
Yeah.
you think about it, we know the greatest teacher, we were created by the greatest teacher that ever was. We have a relationship with the person who is truth, right? We have the Bible, which is infallible, and we just get to be a part of that. We get to be a part and teach, which changes people's lives. And so it's just incredible. It's the best place to apply ourselves. So find a ministry. If you don't have a teaching ministry, but you feel like you can teach, find something, somewhere you can serve in the church, whether it's listening to Awana verses or teaching a Sunday school class or whatever. There's some place you can serve, and really, I challenge you to do that.